I saw her from the kitchen window. At first I thought she was part of the snowbank, just another shape in the white still and hunched near the curb. But something about the way she was placed caught my eye. Strange too. Deliberate too, still. I put on my glasses and stepped closer to the glass. That's when I saw it. A German Shepherd puppy, 5, maybe 6 months old, curled up tight on the bench of the bus stop. Her body tucked inside a school backpack, unzipped, open just enough to fit her in like someone had packed her away. Left her there. The straps dangled to the frozen concrete. Her nose barely poked out. And her eyes. Those eyes were wide, locked on the road. Like she was waiting for someone to come back and unzip the rest of her world. It was 10 degrees out. Snow falling sideways, the kind of day that shudders the whole town. I opened the front door and stepped outside. The cold hit me like a slap. But I kept walking, my boots crunched through the ice as I made my way across the street. She saw me but didn't run. Didn't growl. Didn't even blink. Just sat there frozen, half hidden in that backpack, trembling like a leaf too tired to fall. I crouched down, slowly. Hands low. Voice, soft. "Hey girl," I said. "What are you doing out here?" She reached closer. That's when I noticed her paws, just the tips of them red and raw from cold. She must have been out there for hours, maybe longer. I looked around, no footprints, no tire tracks, no cars, no kid running late, just her in the wind. There was a folded note tucked into one of the backpacks. Side pockets, I slid it out. Fingers numb and unfolded it with care. The handwriting was uneven. "Young, her name is Sally. I'm sorry, I had to please be kind, she's good." That was it. No name, no number, just that. And that's when it hit me. She wasn't left there by accident. She was placed like someone had walked her right to that spot, tucked her in, promised something, and walked away. But Sally, she hadn't moved. She was still waiting for someone who couldn't come back. I'm George Harris. I'm 63, and I used to drive the school bus that stopped right there every morning. But I've never seen anything like her. Not in all my years. Not in all my routes. I didn't know what to do at first. She wasn't crying, wasn't barking. Just sat there breathing in those shallow, nervous pulses like every second she expected to hear the sound of footsteps coming back. A small shape in a too big world zipped into a bag meant for notebooks and pencils. Not lives. I reached forward again, slower this time, and slipped my hands beneath her. She tensed but didn't resist, just a soft, involuntary tremble, as I lifted the whole pack off the bench and cradled it against my chest. She was lighter than she should have been. I walked her home through the snow, one careful step at a time, the backpack pressed against my coat, my body shielding her from the wind inside. I set her down by the radiator in the den. The room was warm, still smelled faintly of cinnamon and wood smoke. From the candle I lit every night in winter, I unzipped the pack fully and let her crawl out on her own. She didn't knot right away. She stayed half tucked inside, watching me. So I sat down on the floor just a few feet away and waited. 10 minutes passed, then 15, and then finally 1 paw. She stepped out hesitant, shaking every move like she wasn't sure she had permission to exist in a place like this. She sniffed the floor. The baseboard me. Her nose touched my boot, then quickly pulled back. That's when I saw the tag on her collar. It wasn't much, just a little aluminum bone, one side dented, but her name was etched there, just like the note said. "Sally," I said it out loud, gently. "Hey, Sally." Her ears twitched. I tried again. "Sally, you're safe now." She didn't come closer, but she didn't retreat either. Just laid down right there on the hardwood, curled into herself with her nose between her paws. I got up, went to the kitchen, opened a can of the only dog food I still had left over from a stray. I fed last year, heated it. Just a little added warm water. I didn't know if she'd eat. I just placed the bowl a few feet away. She watched me the whole time. 10 minutes later, she stood, weak legs, stiff back, one slow step after another. And then she started to eat small bites. like she didn't believe it would last, like everything she'd known had been temporary. When she finished, she walked back to the backpack and curled up inside it again. I swear to God she chose that cold nylon shell over the soft towel I'd laid out, over the warmth of the house, over the chance to move forward, because that's where she last saw him. Whoever he was, the one who wrote that note. The one who packed her in like a lunchbox and walked away, heartbreaking with every step. She wasn't just holding on to a scent. She was holding on to a promise that someone would come back, that maybe this was all a mistake. And I knew right then I couldn't let her keep waiting alone that night. I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her curled in that backpack, like it was all she had left her body. Still her eyes open, watching the door, like she didn't trust the quiet yet. Like she knew too well what it sounded like before someone left for good. I left the den light on. Left the door open. Every now and then I'd get up, peek around the frame. She hadn't moved, still inside that bag, still folded into her grief. Like it was armor when morning came, I brewed coffee and warmed another bowl of food. She waited until I backed away, then ate in silence, then returned to her place like it was instinct, like she'd been trained not to hope. But that morning I tried something different. I pulled the backpack slowly toward the fire, not close enough to spook her, just near enough to take the edge off the cold. Then I sat down in my recliner, like I used to when my daughter was little, and read aloud from the newspaper, weather, local news. Dumb little things. She listened, didn't move, didn't blink. But she listened. It became a pattern every morning, same thing. Me in my chair, coffee in hand. Her in that backpack, like a time capsule, listening. Breathing, staying on the fourth day. I came downstairs to find her not in the backpack. She was by the window, sitting still as ever, staring out toward the street, toward the bus stop. My chest tightened. I knew that look, that waiting, that kind of loyalty that outlasts logic. When I was still driving the school bus, I used to see it in kids too. Waiting on porches, at mailboxes, faces lit up by hope, that maybe today someone would wave back, that maybe this time someone would remember. Sally had that same look. She stayed by the window all day, didn't move when I brought food, didn't flinch at the sound of footsteps, just watched. And at 3:17 p.m., when the yellow bus pulled up to the stop across the street, empty this time because school was still closed from the storm, her ears lifted. Her body leaned forward, just slightly, waiting. When the bus pulled away, she didn't move. Just stayed there, like her clock was set to that exact moment. And nothing else. That evening I sat beside her on the floor. Not close, just near enough. "I don't know who he was," I said, "but if he could see you now, he'd know you never gave up on him." She didn't turn her head, but I saw it, a blink. Slow, heavy, like the weight of the world had just shifted half an inch. And for the first time since she came, she laid her head not on the floor, not inside the backpack, but on my foot, lightly, barely touching. But enough to say, "I know you're here." And I thought, maybe, just maybe, she was starting to believe I wasn't going anywhere the next morning. I didn't find her in the backpack. Didn't find her by the window either. I found her in the hallway, curled up on the old rug just outside my bedroom door. Still quiet, still cautious, but closer. I stood there in the doorway, one socked foot on the tile, heart in my throat. I didn't say anything, just knelt down slowly and whispered, "Hey, Sally." Her ears lifted, no wag, no rush forward, but she blinked, and she stayed. That was all I needed. I made oatmeal and scrambled a little egg for her. She waited until I turned my back, then padded into the kitchen, paws clicking softly like she was afraid to be heard. She ate slow, always slow, never finishing the bowl, like she expected it to disappear at any second by noon. We sat by the fire again. I brought her blanket this time, an old flannel one I used to keep in the truck during long shifts. I laid it beside the fire. She looked at it, looked at me, then walked right past it, and sat at my feet. Didn't curl up, didn't sleep, just rested her chin on my boot. and watched the flames with me that night. I sat at the table with the note from the backpack. I'd read it so many times now the creases were starting to tear. Her name is Sally. I'm sorry, I had to please be kind. She's good. I kept trying to imagine the hands that wrote it. Small, nervous, maybe 10 or 11 years old. Hands that trembled but still tied the knot in the backpack. Hands that probably hugged her one last time and whispered, "Wait here, I'll come back." Even if they knew it wasn't true, I started making calls to shelters, to schools. I used to know people, drivers, lunch ladies. Teachers didn't say much, just asked, "Anybody know of a kid who disappeared recently? Someone who might have had a dog?" Most people brushed me off, but one woman called me back. Linda works the front desk at one of the elementary schools near the edge of town. She said, "We had a boy, Caleb, 11, disappeared just before the storm. He'd been staying with relatives after some stuff went down with his mom. There were reports domestic, but nothing concrete. Then he just vanished." I asked, "Did he have a dog?" Long pause, then, "Yeah, a puppy German Shepherd mix, brand new, said it was the only good thing he had left. Why?" I looked at Sally, now asleep on her side chest, rising and falling slowly. And I whispered into the phone because she never stopped waiting for him. Linda said she'd make some calls, and I sat there for the longest time, my hand resting on her side, thinking about a boy with too many burdens, and a dog who carried all of them for him. Still waiting, still believing. The snow let up the next morning for the first time in a week. The sun cracked through the clouds, soft, pale, like it didn't want to startle anyone. Sally was already at the window when I came downstairs, sitting, waiting, not tense anymore, just steady, as if part of her still believed today might be the day I stood behind her, mug in hand, watching the street with her. "Nothing yet, huh?" I said. She didn't turn, but her tail gave the faintest twitch. Linda called me an hour later and said they'd tracked Caleb down through a local shelter system. He was safe, thank God, with a foster family. Now not far, just 2 towns over. She told me he was doing okay considering. But he kept asking about his dog, Sally. They weren't sure what to tell him. I sat down, heart thoo-tooing in my chest. "Do you think I can talk to someone? Meet the foster family?" She said she'd try, but it might take time. I hung up and looked at Sally. She was still sitting there, still watching that empty corner where the bus used to stop, where nothing had arrived in days. I walked over, sat beside her, slowly placed my hand on her back. "I think I found him," I said quietly. "I think he's okay." She didn't move, didn't blink. But I felt her body shift beneath my hand just slightly, like she heard me, like she believed it. The next few days were a blur. I kept calling, pushing gently. Finally, they agreed, a supervised meeting, just one. No guarantees. The foster family had been cautious at first, but when they showed Caleb the photo I'd taken of Sally by the fire, he broke down, crying, said, "That's her. That's my girl." We set the date for Saturday. It felt like forever. I tried not to show her anything different, tried to keep it all the same. The meals, the fire, the way I read aloud in the morning. But Sally knew something had changed. She stopped. Sleeping in the backpack, started sleeping by the door instead. The night before the visit, I sat with her on the floor, ran my hand gently through her fur. "She's going to see him again," I whispered. Then quieter, "But I don't know if she'll come back." And it hit me harder than I expected, because I'd gotten used to the sound of her pause, to the way she leaned against me without asking, to the way her presence filled the silences I didn't realize were there. But I knew this wasn't about me. This was about a boy, a girl, and a goodbye that never felt right. So I folded up the backpack, brushed it off, and placed it by the front door. Just in case Saturday morning came cold and bright. The kind of cold that makes everything still. Even the wind held its breath. I woke up early, fed Sally, brushed the last bits of snow off the porch. She didn't eat much. She knew something was coming. Her eyes kept flicking to the door, to the backpack I'd laid out on the bench. It wasn't just an object to her. It was the last thread she had to him. We left early. It was only a 40-minute drive, but it felt like I was hauling the weight of the world with me. I had Sally bundled in a blanket resting in the passenger seat, her head just barely above the edge of the window eyes, watching the trees blur by. She didn't move much, didn't tremble, but her ears stayed alert, focused. We pulled into the small residential street where the foster home was. A woman was waiting outside, bundled in a thick red coat. She smiled politely, waved me in, said her name was Erin. "He's inside," she said. "He hasn't been this quiet all week." I parked the truck and opened the door slowly. Sally jumped down on her own, no leash. No hesitation, she looked at the house, then at me, and I said softly, "Go ahead, girl. He's in there." She didn't run. She walked step by step across the snowy yard, nose twitching, tail low, as if following a scent older than the season. Erin held the door open, and in that moment everything slowed. I stepped inside just as Sally rounded the corner into the living room, and there he was. Caleb, 11 years old, thin freckles, worn-out hoodie, and eyes that looked too grown for his age. He stood frozen. Then his lips parted. "Sally." One word, soft, cracked. Sally's body went still. Her ears pulled forward, and then, like someone had flipped a switch, she launched across the floor. Caleb dropped to his knees and caught her mid-leap. She didn't bark. She didn't whine, but her body shook with every breath. She buried her face into his chest and pressed there like she could melt into him, like she'd been holding in her heartbeat this entire time. And now it was finally free. Caleb's arms wrapped around her tight, desperate. "I'm sorry," he kept saying again and again. "I'm so sorry, I didn't want to. I had to. I didn't want to leave you." She licked his face, his hands, his neck, everywhere, and then she just leaned into him completely. No space between them, none at all. I stood there by the doorway and for a long time didn't move. Didn't blink, because I'd never seen a reunion that didn't need words. Just touch, just presence. And the sound of something finally coming home. They let me stay for a while longer than I expected. I sat on the edge of their couch while Sally curled up beside Caleb on the floor. Her head nestled in his lap like it had never left his fingers. Never stopped moving, grazing through her fur. Scratching behind her ears, pausing just long enough to wipe his eyes before going back again over and over. Like if he let go, she might disappear. Erin brought us tea. She didn't say much, just sat nearby, watching with a soft kind of ache in her face. Like she'd seen too many broken reunions that never came full circle, but this one. This was different. She talked about him in her sleep. I said. Erin glanced at me. "Dog's dream." I nodded. You can tell the pause, twitch, the breath changes, but she never made a sound. Not until I told her he was okay. Caleb looked up. Did she wait the whole time? I didn't want to lie. So I told him the truth. She didn't move from that spot every day. Same bench, same direction. Even when the buses stopped running. Even when the snow came in so hard you couldn't see across the street. He looked down, biting his lip. "I left her because I thought it would be safer," he whispered. "They said we had to leave right then. My uncle was coming back. I knew I couldn't bring her. I didn't want them to take her too." His voice broke at the end. "I told her to wait. I promised I'd find her." Sally shifted in his lap as if she understood every word. "You did," I said, "and she did too." Silence settled again. But it wasn't heavy. It was full, like something sacred had just been spoken, and we were all still catching up to it. After a while, Erin stood. "We should talk," she said gently. Looking at me, we stepped outside onto the porch. Cold air biting at our faces. "She can't stay here," she said. "Not yet. Caleb's case is still active. There's paperwork, visits. Rules. I figured I said that, but he can see her weekends visits. As long as you're willing." I didn't even have to think. Of course her shoulders relaxed. He's been through more than most adults, but this, seeing her again, it's the first time I've seen him breathe like a kid. I nodded, eyes burning, when I walked back in. Caleb was asleep on the rug. Sally curled tight against his chest. I sat down nearby, pulled the blanket over them both and stayed until the room dimmed, and the furnace kicked on. And in that moment, watching them sleep, I realized something. Some reunions aren't just between people. Sometimes it's the past finding a new way forward. Sometimes it's a promise kept in silence. And sometimes it's just a boy and his dog holding each other, like the world outside can wait a little longer that night. I drove Sally home alone. She sat in the passenger seat, curled tight in her blanket, eyes still fixed on the back window long after the Foster house had disappeared behind us. She didn't whine, didn't cry, but her whole body was quieter than usual, like something had settled deep inside her and was still trying to understand it all. I didn't speak. I just kept one hand on the wheel and the other resting near her paw in case she needed to reach across that space. And remember, she wasn't alone. When we got back to the house, she didn't go to the backpack. She didn't go to the door. She walked straight into the den, hopped up on the couch, first time she'd ever done that, and curled into the corner cushion like it had always been hers. She looked at me once, eyes soft and steady, and then she slept. Not light, not cautious. Real sleep, deep, unguarded. I stood there longer than I should have, just watching her, because I knew what that meant. She wasn't waiting anymore. She knew where he was, and more importantly, she knew he was okay. The next few weeks moved in slow, quiet ripples. Every Saturday we drove to the Foster house. Sally would leap out of the truck before I even killed the engine, and every time Caleb would be on the porch, arms already open, their visits weren't loud. No wild barking or tail chasing. They just sat together side by side like puzzle pieces that didn't need to move to fit. One time Aaron told me he stopped biting his nails, another time he sleeps through the night. Now then, a few days before the next visit, I got a call they were moving Caleb again, permanently this time. New home, stable adoption in process. Will he still see Sally? I asked. There was a long pause. That'll be up to the new family. I hung up and stared at the fireplace. Sally lay beside it, dozing with her head on the backpack, which she still slept near even if she didn't climb inside anymore. Maybe it was comfort. Maybe it was memory, or maybe she just needed it close, in case someone tried to take that part of her away again. I walked over, knelt down, ran my hand over her fur, and said what I'd been holding in for weeks. If they won't let you see him, you'll stay with me no matter what. You're not going back into the cold, you hear me? She lifted her head, ears tilted, then leaned into my chest quietly, fully. And in that silence, I understood she was mine now. Not instead of Caleb, but because of him. Because sometimes love doesn't end where you think it will. Sometimes it just grows sideways. A few days later, I got the official call. Caleb's adoption had gone through. His new family lived 2 hours west, out near Wanash. Quiet town, small school, fenced backyard. They had a rescue cat named Juniper, and 2 kids already in the home. Aaron said it was a good match. Real good. They were warm people, stable kind, but the family had one concern. They weren't sure about taking on a dog, especially one with history. One with that kind of bond, one that came with her own story carved deep into her bones. I understood, I really did, but I also felt something twist inside me when she said it. I looked at Sally asleep on the rug, her nose twitching as she dreamed. I'd started to recognize the sounds she made in sleep now. Not fear anymore, not panic, but softness, memory. Like her heart was finally making room for things that didn't hurt. I asked if Caleb knew. Aaron said, no, not yet. That night I couldn't look at her the same. I kept thinking, how do you explain to a dog that her person is gone again, that the boy who wrapped her in a backpack and whispered, wait for me, isn't coming back? Not because he doesn't want to, but because life doesn't always let love stay simple. I didn't sleep much next morning. I made a decision. We drove out to Washa, 2 hours of winding roads and snow-glazed fields. Sally was alert the whole time, head out the window half the trip, like she could smell something familiar on the wind when we pulled up to the house. Caleb was already outside. He saw us, his face lit up like I hadn't seen since their first reunion. But then it dimmed because he knew too. He walked up to the truck and leaned in. Is she staying? I didn't know what to say before I could answer. Sally jumped out. No leash. No hesitation. She walked straight to Caleb, rubbed her head against his side, then sat down beside him and waited. Not like before. Not with the ache of someone who'd been left, but like someone choosing to be, still choosing peace. Caleb looked up at me. His voice was quieter this time. Can she come sometimes? I nodded. Every time you want. He nodded back, looked down at her, then reached into his coat pocket and pulled something out. It was the note. The same one. Her name is Sally. I'm sorry, I had to please be kind. She's good. He handed it to me carefully. I didn't think anyone would ever find her. I took the note and folded it gently. You didn't leave her. I said you saved her. And she waited because she knew you would. Caleb smiled. She's brave. I looked at her, tail thumping. Once eyes calm. No, I said, she's more than that. She's home. We stayed a little longer that day. Caleb gave Sally a tour of his new room walls covered in glow-in-the-dark stars, a stack of dog-eared comic books by the bed, a photo of them both printed and taped above his desk. He showed her the backyard too. She did a cautious circle of the fence, then ran 3 wild laps around the swing set. Like her legs had remembered something important. Joy. It looked different on her now. Not frantic, not desperate, but whole, light-free. Caleb laughed as she rolled on her back in the snow legs, kicking up clouds of white. She used to do that when I first got her. He said, but not after we left Mom's. Not once. I watched her from the porch, my heart full and sore. All at once she remembered I said she was just waiting for the right reason. We had cocoa before I left, the kind with too many marshmallows and mugs too big for one hand. Sally rested on the rug at Caleb's feet, head on his toes like she was anchoring him to the floor. His new parents thanked me before I went, said they weren't sure at first, but now they saw she's not just a dog. The father said she's the piece of him that survived. I didn't argue. I drove home in the dark, bro roads slick with frost. The truck felt too quiet without her. I kept reaching toward the passenger seat before remembering it was empty that night. The house felt bigger, colder. I stood by the backpack still on the bench and stared at it for a long time. I thought about putting it away, folding it up, tucking it in the closet with the old dog bowls and the leash she never used, but I didn't. I left it where it was because Sally would be back. Not always, not every day, but some weekends, some summers, some moments, where the past and the present could meet again gently like 2 hands brushing in the dark. And when she came through that door, ears perked, tail, low eyes bright, I'd be here. I'd have the fire going. Her blanket washed her food in the bowl because what she gave me in all those quiet weeks of waiting wasn't just companionship. It was trust, the kind that takes root in the coldest soil and still grows wild. It was proof that even in the worst moments, when the world forgets you, when people walk away, when the bus never comes, love remembers. And sometimes it comes back around, not to stay, but to say, I still see you, I still know you, and I'm still yours. I still keep her photo on the mantle, the one Caleb took that last weekend. The 2 of them in the backyard, snow falling in thick, soft spirals. Her ears tilted just slightly. His hand resting gently on her collar. They're not looking at the camera. They're looking at each other, and in that moment they look whole, like the world didn't break them, like the goodbye wasn't an ending, just a pause between heartbeats. Sometimes I still expect to hear her pause on the floor, those soft little clicks in the hallway late at night. I still glance at the window at 3:17 p.m. Old habits. I guess part of me thinks I always will, but this house isn't empty, not anymore. Because Sally left something here. Not just her scent on the rug. Not just her fur still caught in the fibers of my jacket. She left a lesson, a quiet one, that no act of love, no matter how small, how broken, how uncertain, is ever wasted. That waiting, Waiting is not weakness, that a heart can stay open even after it's been walked away from. And that somewhere out there, someone might still be hoping for a sign, for a miracle, for a moment like hers. If this story touched you, please share it. Not for me, not even for Sally, but for the ones still sitting in the cold, still watching empty roads, still believing that someone will come back, because sometimes you are the person they're waiting for. Join our Furry Paws family. Be their voice. Be their hope.